Hello, I'm Nick Kelley, the Assistant Curator here at the Camp Landing Museum, and I would like to welcome you to this latest episode for the YouTube channel on chaplains here at Camp Landing. If you've not visited us here lately, in the past few years, we've changed out the chaplains where the medics display used to be. It covers the chaplains branch leading up to and through World War II, along with some of the modern changes that have evolved since then. Going back to the beginning of civilization and the first groups of armed soldiers, holy men and priests are recorded in most civilizations, some even armed participants in combat. The U.S. Army Chaplains Corps is one of the oldest and smallest branches of the Army. The Chaplains Corps dates back to 29 July of 1775, when the Continental Congress authorized one chaplain for assignment to each regiment of the Continental Army, with the pay and rights equal to that of a captain. Congress authorized the hiring of a chief of Army chaplains in 1791. Reverend John Hart of Virginia, who had served as chaplain of the 6th Virginia Regiment during the American Revolution, was appointed to the position on March 4th, 1791, and became the first officially recognized United States military chaplain. Until 1862, only Christian faiths were allowed to be chaplains in the U.S. Army. But President Abraham Lincoln appointed Rabbi Jacob Frankel of Philadelphia as the first Jewish chaplain on September 18th, 1862. Here we have a chaplain's flag. Simply a white cross with fringe on a black background. Now we're moving over to the communion being given. This representation of a Christian chaplain conducting a holy sacrament in the field honors the D-Day chaplain, Captain Ignatius Maternowski. Born into a Polish-American family in Massachusetts in March 1912, he spent his younger years attending the parish school and attended St. Francis High School in Athol Springs, New York. While there, he was impressed with the conventional Franciscan friars he met and chose a religious vocation. Father Maternowski also had a desire to serve his country, and as a priest, a desire to minister to the nation's warriors. After receiving permission from his superiors, he joined the U.S. Army in July 1942 and volunteered for airborne duty. He was assigned to the newly formed 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment here at Camp Landing, which later became a part of the 82nd Airborne Division once it arrived in Europe. Franciscan chaplain Captain Ignatius Maternowski was the only chaplain to be killed on D-Day and the first Polish-American priest to give his life in service in the U.S. in World War II, killed by a German sniper while on a mission of mercy. Gooderville hamlet, located 2 kilometers or around 1.2 miles northeast of Picardville, France. In 1944, around 80 people lived there. The only business was a combined cafe and grocery store in the hamlet. In April 1944, the 1057 Infantry, made up mostly of Germans, Georgians, and Mongols, occupied the hamlet. During the night between 5 and 6 June, a large number of paratroopers touched down here, members of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. In the middle of the night, soldiers knocked on the door of the cafe grocery, attempting to get their bearings of their location. U.S. medics brought wounded paratroopers as well as casualties from a nearby glider crash into the grocery. Among these was a Catholic chaplain, Captain Ignatius Maternowski. In addition to his religious insignias, the chaplains wore a Red Cross armband on his left sleeve, the same as doctors, nurses, and the U.S. Army medics that he served with. Realizing the cafe grocery would run out of space soon due to the influx of the arriving wounded, Maternowski searched for a suitable structure to shelter the wounded. He was walking around alone with his helmet on his belt in the lower section of the hamlet. That morning, the chaplain insisted on meeting the German medic in charge in hopes of creating a joint casualty collection point. Denied, he was shot in the back while walking back to his regiment by a sniper. Father Maternowski's body remained where it fell for 3 days before Allied troops were able to advance into the Guntersville. He was buried near Utah Beach. In 1948, his remains were exhumed, returned to the United States, and he was buried in the Franciscans Mater Dolores Cemetery in South Hadley, Massachusetts, the only U.S. chaplain to perish on D-Day. This is a World War II field organ with a soldier seated playing it. These fully functional pump organs were carried around by the chaplains. In 1900, the War Department officially established the position of chaplain's assistant, which said one enlisted man will be dedicated on special duty by the commanding officer of any organization to which the chaplain is assigned for duty for the purpose of assisting the chaplain in the performance of his official duties. Essentially, this was meant a soldier with any occupation skill set could be utilized. This is a Jewish chaplain's kit from World War II, showing the significant difference between it and the Christian version being used for the sacrament. These and similar chaplain's kits could be set up in a field expedient manner or set up more traditionally inside a structure for regular courier services. A very common place to set up was the hood of the chaplain's vehicle with the organ off to the side. Next to the rabbi kit, we have the different colored yarmulkes that the rabbi might have with him for any Jewish persons who might not have one with them themselves. There's no significance to the different colors of yarmulkes in the Jewish religion as long as they are not considered offensive. These are a few examples of books published about military chaplains and a varying array of prayer books, Bibles, rosaries, medals, and hymnals. There have also been technical manuals like this one from World War II for chaplains. The story of the immortal chaplains, often referred to as the Four Chaplains, a story of heroic sacrifice. Early morning on February 3rd, 1943, the USAT Dorchester, an overcrowded troop carrier, was struck by a torpedo from a German submarine. The icy cold waters of the North Atlantic poured in, killing many who were below deck. Chaos ensued aboard the ship. The four chaplains aboard stepped up to help quell the panic and restore order to the evacuation. Lieutenant George Fox, a Methodist minister from Lewiston, Pennsylvania. Lieutenant Alexander Good, a Jewish rabbi from Brooklyn, New York. Lieutenant Clark Poling, a Dutch Reformed minister from Columbus, Ohio, and Lieutenant John P. Washington, a Catholic priest from Newark, New Jersey, began handing out life jackets to those on board. When the life jackets ran out, the chaplains gave up their own to those in need without making any distinction of religion. It only took 18 minutes for the ship to sink. Of the 904 military personnel, the merchant seamen, and civilian workers, only 230 survived. Those who survived looked back at the sinking ship, and as the bow of the vessel rose and then slid silently under the water, they saw the four chaplains standing together, praying, and then vanishing into the icy sea. For their heroic efforts and sacrifice, each chaplain was awarded for the Distinguished Service Cross and Purple Heart Medal posthumously in 1948. A postage stamp was dedicated in their honor in 1988, and an act of Congress established February 3rd of each year as Four Chaplains Day. This is a collection of additional dress and equipment of the Chaplains Corps. In the center, we have the Christian Faith Cross. Beside it are the two versions of Jewish insignia. Before 1981, Roman numerals appeared on the tablets, and in 1981 were changed to Hebrew numbers. These were the only two recognized religions of the time period by the War Department. Since that time, the Department of Defense has added recognition of the Buddhist, Muslim, and most recently Hindu faiths, and created these color insignias. The shepherd's crook was the original insignia authorized by the U.S. Army for chaplains. It appeared as a white crook on the backfield, the official sign color of the chaplains from 1880 to 1888, and is still included in the regimental insignia. The current regimental crest is made up of a dove with olive branch, a traditional symbol of peace embodying the Corps' mission in the Army to deter the war and strive for peace. The sun and rays allude to the provision and presence of God in nature. The page of the open Bible represents the primacy of Word of God. The blue is representative of the heavens and alludes to the spiritual nature of the mission of the Chaplains Corps. The rays represent universal truth, and the surrounding palm branches spiritual victory. The shepherd's crook is emblematic of pastoral ministry. The Army Chaplain Corps was established in 75, hence this year at the top of the crest. The motto, Pro Deo et Patria, translates to for God and country. Even with the position of chaplain's assistant being established in 1909, It remained vague and unspecialized until the Korean War, when Military Occupational Skill, or MOS 71 Bravo, was created. The 71 Bravo was a clerk typist with an additional 4 weeks of training at Fort Dix in New Jersey or Fort Ord in California. In August 1965, the Department of the Army made a major revision of Army Regulation 611-201. Chaplains assistants were designated as MOS 71 Mike, given a job description and specific skill set requirements. In 1966, the assistant schools at Fort Dix and Fort Ord were merged into the U.S. Army Chaplain Center and School in New York City. In October 2001, the MOS was changed to 56 Mike as a standalone career management field, and more recently renamed to Religious Affairs Specialist. Their color insignia is stylized hands enclosing a chapel door open. We here at the Camp Blanding Museum would like to thank you for joining us today for this episode on the Chaplain Score, and we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more videos that we hope you'll enjoy. If you've not made a trip to our museum lately, we welcome you to come by for a visit and take a walk through history. For the Camp Blanding Museum, I'm Nick Kelley, and thank you for your time.